And so we
Yeah.
are going ahead and going to get started. Welcome, Sister Sanithia. Sanithia, what
Thank
do you
you.
prefer?
Whatever. That works.
All right.
Yep.
So we'll do a quick intro here. I skimmed your bio on the AYC website, as all good interviewers should do. So as a get to know you, tell us about your first AYC trip to Central America, where it was to, like,
Wow.
recount that
Okay.
trip for us.
Yeah. So I will say I was 18 years old, like right out of high school, right after high school, and I did not have missions on my mind. I'm just going to be honest. I had somebody that believed in me. I had a leader in my district. He was like, "You need to go on this missions trip," and I'm like, "Okay, what do I got to lose?" I'm an adventurous by nature, so I was like, "Let's just go." So it was to Honduras in Central America in 2006. And so we went, and it was different. I'm telling you, like the hotels that you stay in are completely different than what America was. Well, they had this I remember this shower head. They called it the Widowmaker because, like, the way the electricity hit it would, like, if you touched it, you might get electrocuted, so you kind of got to be a little careful. So
Sounds like our
and then
campground showers here in Michigan.
maybe, yeah, for sure. So it was that, and then we had lizards in in our showers sometimes. So, like, from coming from first world going to third world, it was a huge adjustment. Let me say that. And we went swimming in, like, or we were out on this, like, lake. I wouldn't say swimming. We were just out there on a boat, and then they kind of like left us to float, and then they told us there were alligators that could come. I think that was a joke, but nonetheless, they were. We had fun times like that, but I'll never ever forget the first church service that we went to and how convicted I was. So you're on the mission field, you see how people live differently, which totally broadens your perspective of life. Like, I looked at when I came back home, I had a total global view, a different view. It just shifted my mindset. But when we got to church service, I remember going into the building. They had just painted it, I believe, for us. I was like, wow, I was so humbled. Um, they had benches and chairs. The saints got up and let us sit, and they didn't want to sit because they thought, like, we're here to help you, we're here to serve you. But they were just so humble and serving. And then in service, the hunger that they had for God, it really convicted me, because you look around, they live differently than us, and I think we take for granted, like the AC, the cushion chairs in the church and stuff. And I'm not knocking any of that. I love it. I'm thankful that we have that. But I remember being in that church service and seeing how much hunger those people had for God, and my idea of what I needed in life, and like my wants and needs changed. So I realized that I had to focus more on materialistic things before I got there. And then God shifted my perspective of, you just need me. And so that's what happened on my first missions trip. And then I think I fell in love with what that did to me as a person.
Mhm.
And then seeing young people step outside their comfort zone and realizing that God had more for me than what I thought I had for myself. And so that's how, and then being able to minister to people and being able to pray with people, just love on people, that really spoke to me. So it just shifted my mindset and made me fall in love with missions. We had, we climbed up to the top of this huge statue that overlooked the city. I
Mhm.
believe there were, like, I'm exaggerating, but like 20,000 steps. I'm not even kidding. I get up to the halfway. I'm like, am I climbing Mount Everest? It was so tall, but it was one of the most powerful services or prayer meetings that I've ever been into. There was gifts of the Spirit working through all of it, and God just really showed out and showed up right there for all of us. And we all, like, could barely walk down the 20,000 steps because we were just, like, all drunk in the Spirit, or just God really changed us. And I was like, man, those type of events happen all over the world and miracles happen. Like, I want to be a part of that more. And so that just also intensified my love for missions. And then after that, I pretty much went on a missions trip every summer, and, and still till now.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite trip that you've been on, or like favorite place that you've been?
Oh, wow. Okay. I get this
Or
question
top
a
three,
lot.
we'll say.
Top 3. Okay. So I'll say, do you want me to tell you where has the best food? What has the best sights?
Let's
But
categorize it: sights,
okay.
food, or like just overall experience.
Okay. So food, if you're a meat eater, you have to go to Argentina. You have to. In fact, it's one of our destinations for 21, so I'm just throwing that out there for anybody. But they are like the beef capital, I feel like, of the world. They consume 3 times more beef than we do. And when they cook it, it's like on this open wood fire grill, and the empanadas that they have, oh, they're so fresh. I have searched since 2007 for an empanada that tasted like that, and I can't find it. It is so good. And it was made at the church, it was like from
Wow,
the saints there.
that was like the
So,
Sunday potluck.
yes, multiple times. It was so good. It was so good. So, the food in Argentina was fantastic. Let me see here. Greece's food is really good too, like the fresh vegetables, olive oil, feta cheese, like all of that. Another cool thing about Greece that I loved is I walked through the Bible. Like, you read these
Mhm.
things in like Acts 17, like whenever they're talking about the unknown God and all this stuff, you've read about it, like walking on the Roman road, all of this, and you're there. And the Bible just comes to life, and it
Mhm.
brings so much more clarity, and it really charges you and changes your mindset of, while you're reading the Bible, like, you always know that it's real
Mhm.
110%, but it just brings it up to another level. So Greece was phenomenal, like, for that aspect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Man, all the sites. There's a lot of places that are gorgeous, and I love the food. I love the people. African church services. I love the dancing, like the worship services that they had. You have to, like, either go on Apostolic Youth Corps, their social media, and like look at some of the services. But they do these like worship lines, like dance lines. The females do it together, and the males, and it's just like them worshiping God's just so free, and the bongos and the music, and just so high energy. I love the church services. But in India, when I was in India, the hunger the people had for God, like that they desperately needed what he had or what he was. Like, I'll never ever forget that either, because I want to love and search and seek after God like that. So
That's
each
awesome.
trip changes you or has a cool thing about it.
What's a place that you've been or that you want to go that you think people should visit that's not like most people think of tourist destinations, and I know we're thinking of like AYC, but what's a place that isn't really on people's minds when they think of places that they want to go that they should go?
As a mission trip?
Both. We'll do mission trip
Or,
and just regular travel that they like
oh,
that you
okay,
need to see.
okay. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a really good question. A place, like, just to go visit that a lot of people don't have on their radar.
Hmm.
Um, I've never had that question asked before. Okay, I am going to suggest, because I'd never heard this before I went, was Belgium. So a
Belgium.
lot of people, like, some of them are like, okay, yeah, it's in Europe. We know the Belgian waffle. Are the waffles good? But the the gorgeous buildings and the people there, I fell in love with the people there. Like, I can't wait to go back. So that would be one place to go visit. It's gorgeous. It does have good food, and the people are amazing. Um, as far as like a missions trip, maybe people don't think about. Wow, it's a really good one. I would say, hmm, that's hard. That's really
Or
hard.
maybe like a region. A region might be
Okay.
better.
Okay. Let's say a region. Everyone wants to go to Africa, and I 110% believe you should go to Africa. But the Pacific, that region, and we have a trip in Malaysia going this year. I feel like that region needs the most laborers it can get for multiple reasons. But I encourage anybody, it's got an island feel because there's so many islands,
Mhm.
100%. But there's a lot of unreached people in that area, and they need to hear
That's
about the
awesome.
gospel.
That's awesome.
So,
I'm not sure. if he's on mute or not. I know Austin Hopper, our youth president, went to Malaysia 3 years ago.
I feels like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's been there, and I'm sure he's gonna want to go back.
I do want to go
Yes.
back. If only I knew
There you
somebody
go.
that could send me back.
I know. You need to probably put it in a request to like the superintendent or something, maybe. I don't really know who handles that though.
We'll see how it goes.
Awesome.
Malaysia definitely needs laborers. It is one of the greatest countries that anybody can go to.
That's awesome.
Good.
All right. So for a student who's interested in AYC, where we start?
Okay. Great question. That is a really good question because it's a lot. Like you think, okay, I want to do this mission trip. I have no idea what to do, like to get there, like where do I start? So first, I always say that if you feel like God's calling you to do a missions trip, go talk to your pastor, number one, because they're going to be able, he or she's going to be able to like coach you through that, talk to you and say, hey, you know what? I believe that you can do this. Let's work on these things before we go. They can just give you a really good perspective, and you need their covering and blessing for sure. So first off, go like talk to your pastor. And then once he's like, hey, let's go, let's do this, you can get on the website, www.apostolicyouthcorps.com, and start reading about AYC. Reading about maybe what the age requirements are, what is a trip, what does a trip look like, what do I need to go on a trip, and there's a lot of information on that website, so it might be overwhelming, but we tried to have think of every single question that you're going to have, and we put it on the website. So I would say read through all of that. Follow us on social media so you can keep updated when the application goes live, what trips are full, what trips are going on, and all of that. And on the website, it will guide you through what your next steps are. But
Awesome.
Applications, if your pastor says it's a go and you've looked at all the destinations and prayed about which one you want to go on and God's told you, applications open up on November 1st, and then you apply. And then after that, you apply for it. We over communicate with you on that through email, telling you what the next steps are. So
awesome. So you sort of just touched on it there. So prayer, obviously, how do you decide where you want to go?
Yeah, so that's
so
a
many
great
options.
question too. There are, like next year we have 18 different trips. So that's a lot of options. It is. I always say, of course, pray about it, because God knows He's orchestrating the opportunity for you to go. And I know He knows what's going to happen, how the host is going to do the trip, what people are going to be there, and then what skill set and what things that you have that can be used in that location. So each time, and I'm just going to tell on myself, each time that I just chose a destination because I thought it was cool, God didn't allow me to go to it. Like if I was like, I want to go to, I don't know, fill in the blank, and it was either didn't work out because of the dates or it didn't work out because of this, but the trip that He put me on, that I was like, okay, this is what it is. It was indeed a divine moment, because there were opportunities on that trip that I really believe that God orchestrated for me to go on, for me to help somebody or for them to help me, honestly. Like it was like a two-way street. So I encourage the students that ask that, just pray about it 100%. He's going to lead you. And yeah, we have our own, like maybe like glam destinations, but I want to go on the trip that God has chosen for me, because I know it'll be 10 times better than the one I choose for myself, just like our plans in life.
That's awesome. So don't just pick a place you want to vacation to.
Right. Because we do sightseeing, but it is ministry. So
Yeah.
You're going to do a lot of ministry while you're there.
Yeah. So it's a trip. It's an international trip. It's probably expensive. How do I raise money for an AYC trip?
That's great. I got that a lot too. They're like, man, that's a lot of money. And it is. Like when you look at that price tag, you're like, whoa, I've never seen that much money in my bank account ever. How in the world am I going to get that much money to go on a trip? I know it's a lot. But we're going to release prices soon, so you'll get to start saving for it. And I encourage all young people to either get like an additional job and put back that money, or reach out to people, because there's a lot of people in your network and your family that would have loved this opportunity at their age and they didn't have it, or that they want to go on a mission trip and they'll never get the opportunity. But if they get to help you go on one, it's almost like that they get to go on it at the same time. Like they're partnering with you to go on this mission trip. So a lot of times, if you just share your story, share, hey, I'm going on a trip. You don't even have to ask people for money. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, I want to bless you. I want to give this to you. You know, so that's one way. I know a couple people have sold stuff on the side, like did a clothing business or made something and sold it, or signed up for lawn services or whatever that kind of like fundraising thing is. A couple people have also went to like local businesses and said, hey, would you mind to get involved in a discount card? And you make like a laminated card, and like Sonic's going to do you guys have Sonic in Michigan?
We do. We have a couple.
Okay.
A few.
Okay. So like Sonic's going to give you like buy one, get one free drinks after 5 p.m., you know, or whatever that coupon is. But you go around to local businesses that are in your area, get them to give you a coupon, put it on a bag, and then you sell those cards. It's completely profitable for you. So, and the businesses get advertisement and all of that. So any way that you can do those fundraising to raise money for AYC, let's do it. And then I know a lot of times the churches will get behind you and bless you that way. I'll say this, it's a lot of money, and I know it looks hard at the beginning, but when you get back, you'll say, I will pay that 5 times again for the experience and the change that God did for me while I was over there.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit more about that. You know, stories that you've experienced, and you've touched on it a little bit, but like stories from students. Talk about sort of that change that you do experience. You talk about your mindset shift. What are some things you've heard from students that have gone and some of their experiences?
Absolutely. So people ask me, what's my favorite thing about AYC as far as the ministry or the change that I see in students? And when I was younger, I used to go because it changed me, right? And now that I'm older and like go on as a chaperone and stuff, I love seeing it impact young people. And this is my favorite part. It's the light bulb moment is what I call it. So you go over and you're kind of like, okay, I think that God's asked me to do this. I think that God's maybe given me the skill set or the opportunity to speak or teach or do children's ministry, whatever that fill in the blank is that you feel like you might have some skills, but you've been a little reserved because you don't want to like step outside your comfort zone. And on this mission trip, nobody knows anybody. You might be going from somebody from your district, but you don't know them that well, you know, or somebody from your church, but you guys are all outside your comfort zones. And it's like the missionary or the host asks you to do something, you kind of get to the edge of your comfort zone. You're like, okay, you know what? This is all I've got. This is the skill that I've got, the skill that God gave me. I'm just going to give it to God. And you get up there and you're right at the edge, and then God just steps in and takes you way beyond that you ever thought possible. Like you're done either preaching, you're done doing children's ministry, you're done praying with somebody in the altar and watching them get filled with the Holy Ghost. And you're like, wow, I never knew that I could be used that way, that God could use me that way. And your whole entire mind is changed. Your mindset's changed. Your view on ministry's changed. You come back supercharged and you're like, God did it over there. He's the same everywhere, right? So he can do it when I get back home. So you come back home, you change the dynamic of your youth group, that your hyphen group, you're ready to serve at any capacity, and your ministry just takes off when you stay grounded in God. And that's my favorite thing to see as young people, is that we have so much belief in them. And I know that a young person's called to do so many things. There's so much potential. But to get them to believe that, sometimes it's harder. But when they see that God does too, it just like ignites it. And that's my favorite thing about an AYC trip.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have a couple more questions, but right now I'm going to go to the crowd. Is there anybody that has a question? I see Alana. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Go for it.
Hi. I just wanted to know if you know when the dates are coming out for the 21 trips.
Yes, ma'am. So September 1st, that's when we are releasing dates and prices. So you'll have both of them on that.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the like average price for people who might be trying to save up or anything like that? What's sort of like the midpoint for prices?
That's a good question. Depends on which region you want to go to, right? So North American trips are usually a little cheaper. They'll range from like $1,200 to $1,800.
Gotcha.
Your global trips will range about $2,500 to $4,000, depending on which location. Because and it's weird. You think that you can go to a certain area and the change, like the cost would be the same, but some countries are more expensive than the other. So
good to know. So if you're
Yep.
listening, start searching for that middle and fundraising. All right.
Yeah.
So do you have anything that I've missed about AYC before we start to wrap up here?
I don't think so. We were talking about finances, and I do want to let the group know that we do it in payments. So it's not like you have to make your $3,000 payment like as soon as you sign up. Like you sign up in November, payments aren't due until March, April, and May. So you'll have like global trips are broken up into 3 different payments, and North American trips are broken up into 2 different payments. So you have kind of like a payment schedule that will also be released on September 1st too. So you'll know when your payments are due, and it's all online, all electronic.
Awesome. So I know there's a couple of youth pastors on. When a student approaches a youth pastor, a pastor, what's a good way to sort of, what are some good questions to ask them to make sure that they're really wanting to go on this for, a missions purpose, or making sure that they're not just wanting to go for a vacation?
Yeah, I think that each youth pastor knows their students. I'm just going to be honest. Like, you know your student's heart, and sometimes they're right on that line. I know whenever I did youth work, I was on youth staff. There were some kids that were like right on the line, and you're like, okay, this event or this opportunity could kind of swing them this way or whatnot. So I think that you just know their heart and you can talk to them about it. Just ask them why. I guess like just the bottom line question is like, why do you want to do this trip? It's a lot of work, and the ones that really want to go will put the work in. And so I kind of feel like it'll weed them out themselves,
That's awesome. All right. So last question from me, and then if there's any other questions sort of in the group, we'll let them ask. So there's a lot involved in AYC, and there's probably a lot to overlook. What's something from your perspective that people either don't think about or overlook, or some little details that might slip people's minds?
Okay, from an administrative, like getting things done, your checklist, a lot of people think that it doesn't take as much time to get your legal documents in order. So, like your passport or your visa or anything, or your legal forms that you have to submit, all of those things, they're like, oh, I have time. But the thing is that you're dealing with government agencies, and they might be backed up, they might be overloaded. And so it might say it only takes 3 weeks, but it might really be 8 weeks, So that's something that a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, I'm waiting, I can't, that. And then booking their domestic flights, so like for the difference between a North American and a global trip, just so I can let you guys, there's different what's covered in the cost. And so on a North American trip, they're responsible for getting themselves from their home city to the destination. So like if you're going to go to LA and you're from Michigan, then you're going to, like Detroit, let's say that you're responsible from your flight from Detroit to LA. And booking that 6 weeks out before your trip is the best cost price that you're going to get. Like if you go in within that 6-week window, then it's going to cost more. So those are just kind of like some saving tips. But as far as like the trip, I don't know if students understand like how much of a family they're going to return with, because you go on these trips and you don't know anybody, and it's scary. Like I'm an extrovert, so I'm like, yes, let's do it. I want to meet new people. I want to make new friends. I want to fill up my Black Book or my iPhone, whatever contacts, because I just love connecting with people. And some people are like, oh, I just don't know it, so I understand that. But at the end of it, you guys get back to the airport for departure to go home. you're kind of like, wow, how in the world did I live without these 25, 40 people before in my life? And like you really do. You like have this AYC family that you'll have forever. I have friends right now that like are my best friends that I met on an AYC trip. In fact, I was in one of her weddings. You know, like we just got that close because of that. So you have a family. And then the awesome thing is that when you're going through rough times, because students might be the only one in their youth group that are really charging forward, or the only one in their home that's really charging forward. And it gets rough and it gets, and you get tired and you need that encouragement. And sometimes you can just reach out to your AYC family like, hey, having a rough day, or hey, pray for me. And they're there, they're your support. Or they might encourage you with a word or a devotion or something. But having that connection to know, like, I'm not in this alone with somebody else that I just experienced this amazing trip with, is life-changing as well. So that might be something else
That's awesome. And as you're talking, I thought of sort of one more question. So
yeah.
as the trip ends, as you go home, how do you keep that same fire once you get home that you felt on the trip?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And in fact, at the end of the trip, we give them like a post-trip guide to help the students stay engaged. Because here's the thing, like when you're on that mission trip, you're operating at like this level. Like for the entire 11 days that you're on this trip, or 7 days that you're on this trip, you're operating at this high level. And when you get home, you're like, wow, God changed my life. God did all these amazing miracles. I saw blinded eyes open. I saw so many people get the Holy Ghost. I saw, children getting the Holy Ghost in the altar, all of these amazing things that you just want to share about. And you think, and I did when I was younger, so I'm telling like my story here. You think that whenever you get back home, you have to operate at this level all the time. Well, that's not sustainable. There's times that we go through the valleys, and don't think that when you go through the valley that God's not still anointed you, that he's still not going to use you, that's just how life is sometimes. So how to stay grounded is that when you get back home, like connect with your pastor again and be like, hey, guess what? Can I tell you about my trip? Can I tell you what God did for me? And can I tell you about how he challenged me? Then he can keep you accountable. Your pastor, youth pastor, have them pray over you to keep that accountability and keep you grounded. And then as you're going through and keeping, like the ministry opportunities or the vision that God's given you or the challenge, as you go through that, there might be days that you like struggle with, or that the enemy might come up and be like, you know what, God didn't change your life. Look how you're struggling. But just have that connection from your AYC fam or from your pastor to be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can we talk about it? That accountability is key. And then those spiritual disciplines, reading your Bible and really praying every day and connecting with God will keep you motivated and charged.
Awesome. So good. I think that's everything that I have. Are there any other questions from the panel or the participants, anything like that? I think you guys can unmute yourselves if you have any questions or comments.
I have one more question, and this might be kind of like random. So I went on AYC Alaska in 2017. Cool. So I'm looking to do an international trip next year. So very excited about it. Do you have to have like your passport or anything like that when you apply, or is that all after the fact?
Yeah. So when you apply, all I need is pretty much your profile information and you will have time to apply for your passport and everything like that later. Like it's due, I'm giving you a rough idea, but it's due like March 15th, so you apply on November 1st. So you have time.
Okay,
to get
perfect.
It after. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining. One last time, where can people find out more information on AYC? And where, if they have questions for you or anything like that, where's the best place to find you and reach out?
Yeah. So most information about AYC is on our website, apostolicyouthcorps.com, or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's AYCORPS is the handle for Instagram and Twitter, because we do post a lot of updates on that. And to reach out to me, I am on social media. They can connect with me. I love answering questions about AYC. I'm super passionate about students getting on mission trips and really allowing God to, mold their life and let them get changed. So that's my passion. I love to answer questions, so they can reach out to me on social media. I'm free.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for
Thank
joining. We're going to wrap up. This will be available later on in the week, so you can go back and review it if anybody has questions, or reach out via the websites. So thank you, Sister Sunithia, for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. Nice talking with you.